There is that, yeah. Maybe the top one.
Welcome everyone. If I haven't met you before, my name is Penny Hay. I'm Senior Lecturer in Arts Education Class and Senior Director of Research for 5X5X5egg040211penny56. We're going to start with a short reading from The Egg, our host today, in a partnership with Early Arts, ACA and 5X5X5egg040211penny56.
The Egg is the charitable arm of the Theatre Royal Bath. To make space for the Egg, the building, which used to be a cinema, was completely gutted, except for its 4 walls. True or false? Young people were actually involved in the design of the Egg. True! A group of young people aged 9 to 18 created the brief, and the architects consulted with them throughout the design process. So we now have a glamorous and fun building which welcomes and inspires all young people, from toddlers to teenagers. When you come to the Egg, you'll find our underground backstage workshop, a family-friendly cafe, the egg-shaped 125-seat auditorium, and a very cool rooftop rehearsal room. All the workshops and rehearsals at the Egg happen in the Roper room. Even the professionals rehearse in here. You can choose to get your groove on at Egg Club Dance, or brush up on your acting skills at Egg Club Acting. And whatever you try, Egg Club is a place where you will have loads of fun, make new friends, and learn a bunch of new skills.
We learn Egg Club Dance. Yeah, we learn street dance or break dance.
The dancers work together to create their own routines. The group are warming up before finding out about their next performance piece from Fleur, their tutor. Today, the Egg Clubbers are learning some square dancing.
But we're going to do a hip-hop style version, which is way cool.
And you get to learn new moves. I think I am getting better. It's exciting and I enjoy it lots.
If you like the look of Egg Club, you could also try Egg Club Acting. It's for 5 to 9-year-olds and happens throughout the week. The Egg is always welcoming new members.
Okay, everyone up in feet. Down.
We've been thinking some games that have something to do with opposites, so kind of focusing.
Everyone say down.
Yeah, we get to do a lot of acting. We work towards a performance. I like the teacher.
That is a really nice way to mirror the way together.
I like the people that actually can make new friends. It doesn't have to just be people from your school. I like the game. That's why I like Egg Club.
Whilst the Egg Clubbers have fun at the Egg, other mentors and tutors go out and about town to schools where clever teachers have realised just how much of a difference the arts can make to pupils' lives. These children at St Andrew's School in Bath have been chosen by their teachers to be the lucky recipients of an urban arts programme of workshops, courtesy of the Egg and in association with Black Families Education Support Group.
What things have we improved on during the week?
We do fun activities involved with drama. We play games. We learn brand new things. Urban arts is a fun play.
What, it's 2 words, it's do heads.
I've done dancing before, but this is first experience with a dance teacher. It's made me know I like acting.
These guys are so lucky to get this opportunity because research has shown that the creativity involved with acting and dance and things will even help them to improve their schoolwork. Not only that, but they get to have a whole load of fun, make new friends and be happier people along the way.
Good. After school clubs can be fun. I get to do performances. It's a good that we got something different from sport. They're different in here because in class we're not really allowed to laugh that much, but in here we're allowed to laugh. Just come and get involved because it's really fun because you do lots of fun activities and you can learn from the activities.
Urban Arts Juniors also takes place back at the Egg and is open to lots more schools to identify young people who may benefit from taking part. What do you get if you cross 4 schools, the Egg, William Shakespeare and 8 weeks to put on a show? Shake-a-thon!
I'm Chloe Litwood and I am a teacher at Westfield Primary School. We decided the Shake-a-thon project would be a really good project to get involved with for Year 5.
Exciting project, quite a scary one, but we knew that with the help of the Egg it would turn out to be a big success. So
It's the morning of the final Shakeathon challenge, and it's a big one. In just 10 hours' time, the Shakeathon company will be sitting in the wings, about to perform in front of a sold-out audience. By 7:30 tonight, they will need to perfect their performances, do a technical and dress rehearsal, but most importantly, they must work together as one theatre company. Despite the tight schedule, Lucy, their professional tutor, is feeling confident that the Shakeathon company will be ready for their big show.
Started at 9:30 this morning, and we have really pushed these guys. They've been doing tech runs, you've been doing runs up in the rehearsal space upstairs, we're doing line runs, projection runs, you name it, we've been doing it all day today.
They just make you feel more comfortable about doing it, and they really teach you a lot, and they do everything they can to make you do the best you can.
Because everything's so fun, they just dive in and have a go.
Because they explain it really well.
So when you're back in the classroom, your relationship with them is that much better, and I think that helps you to help them to learn.
Sweet
They
baby.
don't have to stay in a room all day looking at a whiteboard.
So we come here and their learning seems to increase and multiply, and they seem to have more opportunities to think and ponder what they're doing.
It's more exciting, there's more of a challenge.
I've learned a lot about acting and how to just loosen up a bit more and feel more comfortable with who I am. And learn to use different words. Shakespeare is basically a whole different language. For schools who aren't yet doing this, I really recommend doing it.
It's been absolutely fantastic. Definitely get involved and give it a go. And the kids absolutely love it. It's a great experience for them to have. And for some of them, it'll be the first time ever stepping foot in a theatre. And just to have that experience is, I think, is really valuable.
I'd say embrace the idea, even if you can't see how easy or straightforward it might be. Jump in, take on the challenge, and it will all work out fine in the end.
And they do look after you a lot here, because tonight they're going to feed us pizza, so...
Most classes and workshops at the Egg offer an opportunity to perform on the Egg Theatre's main stage. This is a fantastic...
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that DVD, Hannah, how long is that DVD? Is that 15 minutes? The rest of it, another 50 minutes. So if you want to see it, it's often showing downstairs in the cafe, or I'm sure Hannah will lend you a copy. The Egg Theatre are a brilliant host today, but also importantly a partnership in this event. So if I just quickly switch around, there's my text goes a little challenge. Yes, it works. So this, importantly, is a collaboration, as you can see from all of our logos, between the Egg, between 5x5, between Early Arts, and we are also the Southwest Hub for ACA, which is Action for Children's Arts. So I think, especially in the current climate, our lobbying opportunities for making sure that all children have an entitlement to creative and cultural experiences, not only in the arts but through the arts, and in terms of a lifelong commitment to creativity. So I think it's really important that events like this happen, and if you as well as participants can lobby for more, that would be fantastic. So you'll see from the programme that we've got a presentation for me just to kind of as a provocation really, to get us thinking about reflective journals. We're focusing on the whole notion of using documentation and reflecting on learning in the early years. So the focus is on reflective journals, but it will also link into learning journals, visual journals, and journals that adults use as well as children, and ones they use together. So hopefully we'll see an opportunity for taking ideas from today into your own practice. Scanning the room, I know probably about half of you, and the other half I'm looking forward to getting to know over the day. After my presentation, we've got two lovely teachers from Barfeaston Primary School and Twerton Infant School to share their practice with learning journals. And then this afternoon, two of our 5x5 artists, Catherine and Helen, are going to lead two different workshops on visual and written journals that you'll have a chance to experience an hour of each of the workshops. So we'll swap over. Julia will take you through this afternoon's programme after this presentation. So looking across the room, most people are immersed in early years practice in one form or another, whether you are parents, artists yourselves, educators, early years practitioners, nursery nurses, carers, home educators. I'm just scanning if I missed any group out, mentors, university lecturers. Is there any other expertise within the room that we can share today? Is there anybody behind? Oh, of course, the egg team are here as well. Hannah, just say hello to everyone. Hello. Hi. Hannah leads the creative learning team and specialises in early years as well. So Hannah would be a good person to collar at the coffee breaks. You probably know the 5x5 team, Julia Butler, who runs 5x5, Liz Elders, who's a mentor as well. So I think probably without further ado, I'll just start my presentation. My screen looks different to this, so I'm slightly thrown by this, George, so you might have to help me here, but I'm sure it'll be fine. It's a posh one, it tells you what's coming next, so you have to really use your brain that way. And because Jack's video slightly put me off, you can cut that bit out. So what I've collected together is, if you've been to one of our presentations before, it's a standing joke that I don't ever write anything down and read it out, because I have this kind of personal belief that if you live something, then it should come out of your mouth the right way, kind of thing. So because I'm immersed in this practice daily, so whether as an artist or researcher or a mentor, an educator, teacher, parent, whatever my role is, then I'm kind of living this out and trying to encourage other people to see the potential for particular kinds of working practices. And I think the philosophy that underpins 5x5 is something that we, in our 11th year now, it's something that we're really interested in seeing how that can change in particular contexts according to the children you're working with, and negotiate an open, I don't even like the word curriculum, but an open set of learning experiences for children based on co-inquiry. So the reflective journal, or the visual sketchbook, or the ideas book, or the, what else do you call these yourselves? Have a think about that. Is actually at the heart of this practice. So how many people in the room are artists? Who would name themselves as an artist? Wave. Okay, how many people would name themselves as educators? Good. How many people are parents? Okay, how many people keep a journal of some sort? Excellent, let's hope after today everybody does. What about its name? What's it called? Throw out.
Sketchbook.
Sketchbook.
Moleskin.
A moleskin. What else do you keep?
Portfolio.
A workbook. Okay. Any other names? A diary.
Arts journal.
Say that again.
Arts journal.
An arts journal. Yes, absolutely. So one of the points is to, whether it's your book or the book that you're working with children, to negotiate the name of it. My classes, when I used to be a primary teacher, and we used to negotiate the name of the book at the beginning of the year. So sometimes it would be an ideas book, or a design book, or a visual journal. When I was teaching at Goldsmiths, my students have process diaries, their name, visual journals, visual journals even. So let's have a look at some of the different ways that artists in this context keep sketchbooks. Artists like Gainsborough, Rubens, right from a kind of year dot in terms of making art, people have kept visual notebooks. And the idea of supporting the development and the generation of ideas is at the hub of this. So a journal is a place for different things to happen. These are some of them, but not all of them. And Catherine and Helen later will take you through that opportunity to think about how you might use journals yourselves and with children as well. So reflecting, recording, seeking, exploring, but I think importantly it's a place to think and feel and wonder. I love that phrase. A place to imagine and remember. So you can set up the opportunity for using the journal in different ways yourselves. There's a great author, I think Nicky knows, one of my heroines is Kerry Smith. I think Kerry is a man, but I haven't ever found out. It's spelt in the male way. Does anybody throw light on that? Maybe I should write to him now. Has anybody seen Nim's Island when Alex Rover and the author turns out to be a woman, not a man? But Wreck This Journal, these are my daughters, Wreck This Journal and This Is Not a Book. You know, it's an opportunity to see a journal used in a different way, so do have a look at these. And just on the wonderful world of Google, just exploring artist sketchbooks across the world. I know some of you in the room have your own collections as well. Kat recently lent me a set of her ideas around journaling, which I found really interesting. But I've been fascinated to see how people use them in different ways, visually, verbally, using words, using found materials, using drawing, using painting, mixed media, and collecting ideas and representing them. And I think that word representation, rethinking ideas is really important. So just, a travel journal, thinking about where you've been on holiday, where your children have experienced recently in their locality, collecting images and artefacts. There's a current exhibition at Sion Hill at the moment in the School of Art all about junk and the collections from Stanley Kubrick, but how junk identifies ourselves. If you look in your bags, I don't have a handbag, but if I looked in my bag, then what would it say about me? It's that kind of thing. Your journal represents a little bit about you. And also today you will see an opportunity with Helen and Catherine's work. They work in very different ways, but there's lots of overlap as well. But the idea of making collections, not only in books, but also in boxes, in photograph albums, in cupboards, in shelves and so on. So thinking about the whole notion of collecting ideas together. This is a piece of work, here actually, from David Allinson's classroom in Chilcompton Primary School. And I like the way he works, because he not only collects ideas together with the children in boxes, but the children then represent their work in sketchbooks as well. So one of the purposes of keeping and collecting reflective journals is all about making learning visible. And that phrase comes from the Harvard Project Zero work in America, which was inspired by the practice in Reggio Emilia in northern Italy. And for those of you that know about 5x5 already, 5x5 started 10 years ago with the mission to think about an alternative model of education, starting with the child centre and focusing on co-inquiry. So it's actually around children's inquiries, starting with their lead and with adults as companions in their learning. The whole notion of making learning visible being about, we're working with children every day from 0 to, well, in the context of 5x5, 0 to 19, but we focused for many years on early years, and that's become kind of our flagship practice, if you like, that then we can build on through different age groups. But the idea of representing children's learning to understand it better. We've got a current project going on in London with a 5x5 artist working with parents in the foundation stage alongside the teachers to make their learning visible. He's intervening, if you like, daily to create installations with the children about their inquiries, and then having conversations with the parents to make the language of creativity more accessible. This image comes from Freshwood Primary School, where Kirsten Catherine Naylor worked for Hesford Jones. Catherine Naylor worked for several years. Just the idea of collecting images together to think about what we're noticing more carefully to then attend to. And if I'm standing at a bus stop and trying to explain what we do as a charity, it's actually the quality of attention we're giving to children's creativity. And through documentation and through the learning you can see in journals, you can then know what to do next. So we've put a lot of emphasis on the whole idea of careful observation of children's ideas, careful documentation and interpretation analysis as part of a creative reflective cycle. So thinking about, in fact, Liz, I have to honour this is your work, because Liz set up an exhibition with her children in the nursery, 3-year-olds, 3 and 4-year-olds in Wilcott Chapel in Bath, where the work was hung at 3-year-olds' eye height, importantly. So the photographs the children had taken. Do you want to, rather than me say, do you want to say this?
Well, it was working with University of Bath as well as our cultural centre, but looking at the processes of the children's learning. We felt it was really important that it was at child height, and actually when they went into the exhibition space, it was the children who took their parents around that space and explained what they've been doing throughout the year. So it was a culmination of a year's project with the children and them exploring their learning processes to their parents.
And actually this is when my child was 2, and we visited the exhibition and saw the work going on, and really came home, and this is our top corridor. She got my post-its off my desk and started making her own exhibition along the corridor, completely of her own volition. I've always been, sat on my hands and always said, following her own ideas. The strapline of 5x5 has become, thanks to our Baines group, some of them in the room, giving children the freedom to find and follow their own fascinations. And I think actually that's honoured with adults as well. And on the right-hand side, it's not that, the colours haven't come out very well, but on the right-hand side you can see children visiting the 5x5 exhibition that we had at our meeting. Is it just me not being able to see it because of the lights, or can you see it, or has it gone a bit black? So George, is anything we can do about that, or shall I just carry on?
Sorry.
Okay, I'll just carry on then. So we'll see which ones show. If they don't show very well, I'll say. So maybe it's my photography. I have to just say, Jane, this is you. Can you see yourself on the right-hand side?
Not quite.
And you're taking notes of what this particular child is saying in the hot bar gallery. And the children are making their own exhibition of post-its on the wall. Again, post-its became a theme. So, thinking about, your reflections on why you feel that observation and documentation is important, and what process did you use to do that together with your colleagues in your particular context. And I think starting with the child's voice, starting with a view of children as competent and creative from the moment of birth, and that their ideas are valued and we respect them, is absolutely, one of children's rights. It's something to do with the UN Convention 31 that maybe the government has forgotten about. But I think we all have different ways of sharing our documentation. It's been a complete delight to see the work in Bath Easton and Twerton, making that learning visible daily on learning walls and sharing and celebrating. You'll see that in a minute. In different ways. This is Ed Harker's Writing in the Wind of his children. He's head of St Saviour's School. Just writing down immediately as the children are reflecting on their learning together. Adults as the author, if you like, but the child's voice. And then he has really, when we hear from St Saviour's, really good techniques to immediately then put it on a flat screen for the parents as they're picking up from the nursery, so they can see what the children have been involved in through the day. And capturing those moments of learning that we can then attend to as a group of adults on behalf of children. And in different ways. You know, this is just one of the sessions in one of the 5x5 sessions in St Saviour's, where they were focusing on working with Sasha Lasky, one of the drama practitioners who's previously worked the egg, and making stories up together, very much inspired by Vivian Guston Taylor's work. You may know her, she's written a book called Play as a Child's Work. And thinking about different forms of documentation. Personally, and many colleagues around the room who've been privileged enough to go to Reggio, you know, it's quite inspiring to see their way of presenting their documentation, because it's so, what's the word, Mary, help me, it's so vivid and real, and it's honoured daily and changes, and it collects these ideas that children have and then responds to them. So there is a great sense of space and light, transparency. I think all the colour you see in all of the settings in Reggio is to do with the children's work. There's none of this rubbish that goes on in some of our primary schools to do with too many primary colours, plastering the walls with flouncy borders, and you know, you see the children's work. That's what you want to see. You know, less is more. I personally would have all my classrooms white walls and just, you know, showing what the children have done. Maybe I'm slightly obsessed by that. I'll own up to it. But I think the role of the adult in documenting children's learning as well, Lisa here in the background, taking notes of the children's learning, but also one of the children in the foreground also documenting the other group. And whether that forms part of a learning journal, or whether that's then presented on a learning wall, and we'll talk about the difference on both and the overlap as well. So giving children responsibility for taking photographs and then representing them. Some of them are on a timer, it seems. I'm thrown by this programme, so I apologise. Rich Hughes he's one of our Bristol artists. Roger, you probably know him. He's worked a lot with giving children responsibility for sharing their work in different ways back to their peers as well, and creating art forms out of that process. Children are hugely interested in each other's ideas, so giving them a chance to reflect together with whether you're presenting a book of photos or a reflective journal or a photo wall or a learning panel, whatever your phrase, is that chance to reflect together and take these ideas seriously. And out of these ideas, then you can start your responsive planning. So you don't come up with the ideas first and close down the children's ideas, you're opening out as a genuine co-inquiry. This is David's classroom in Compton, and what I like about his work is that he honours the child's voice and the adult's role. So that displays not only his writing, they've agreed this is a year 2 class, so 6 and 7-year-olds, they've agreed as a group about a question for their learning, so that it's not a topic just called change, it's, you know, how can I share my ideas about change in a workshop? And then he's taken photographs with his narrative, the children have documented with their drawings and narrative, and they've also taken photographs and added their comments, working alongside TAs or parent documenters, and having the child's voice there as well as in this case their sculptures that they were investigating as part of the process of change. So I'm sorry, I apologise for if it slips over before I finish. So what can be in a journal? Well, you'll have a chance this afternoon to explore some of these ideas together, and this isn't a definitive list. You can see that I always play visually with the slides, and it's more the layout of the text, and I thought I'd stop there. But I think, you know, the bits and pieces and the questions, the dreams and the lists, you know, you can be quite playful about how you might present your ideas and how you might encourage children to as well. There's not a prescription, it's always about possibilities, and I think that's what's really important for me. I just used that phrase as a fantastic quote from Colleen Rinaldi, that, you know, if you already know the outcome of children's learning, you're stunting their potential for learning themselves. I must put it out, I suppose. So, I'll give you a few examples. How am I doing for time? I think, for instance, I work as an artist, parent, in Bath Eastern Primary School, half a day a week. The exchange is I run a workshop as an artist and I collect data for my doctorate. It always works, don't quote me, Jack. But I've worked with some of the children now for 6 years, and I'm focusing in on a few children in terms of the case study, and what I've noticed particularly are the different ways that children immerse themselves in using sketchbooks. So every child has a sketchbook and they use them in very different ways. I brought a selection. I managed to bribe is quite strong, isn't it? Persuade the children that they were going to be famous today by sharing their work at the Egg Theatre in Bath. So maybe we could do a little certificate for them, and it would be nice. So Jack, you know, he's worked with me several times, and we'll always kind of take an environmental interest. He'll either draw the tree in the playground, or he'll make a view out of the window, or he'll go into the garden area and do some close-up work of the orchard area. And I think it's interesting how I've observed children finding and following their own fascinations, given the freedom. So the structure is the sketchbook, and then that's completely open-ended. The workshop's called Being an Artist. It's all about the children's developing identity as artists. But the sketchbook is a useful tool for me because in dialogue with them I can see what they're interested in and know then how to support their work. So, and sometimes they work together. So James and Max are working together in this context in 5X5, working alongside Edwina Bridgman, who's a resident artist at Bath Eastern. She's there. Well, you can't see it. Well, you can see their work, I suppose. She's there today working with class 6, but she's been working there for how long, Nikki? 6 years now? 5 years? So 6 years. And she started working with the reception class, and then the next year she worked with reception in year 1, and then in year 2, and so on. Now she works with the whole school. And everybody's got this kind of habit of mind, to borrow a phrase from Peter Moss, that, you know, they are artists, they are researchers, and they are researching the world, and that their ideas are valued. And in fact, Edwina's current exhibition is called Imagine, coming up in Wells Cathedral, and she's eliciting the children's ideas to then inform her work in the exhibition. If you saw her recent work in Victoria Art Gallery, Bath Eastern children had a piece that they made as part of the shelter exhibition, and so she honoured their work alongside her own. So she's definitely a nationally renowned artist, possibly moving into international fame, who knows? And possibly she works with us. So Hazel, for instance, who I've worked with for a couple of years now as well, she has a very strong sense of notation. So she will share her learning. This was last year's play was all about the Wizard of Oz and the children designing the scenery. And she was collecting ideas in her sketchbook put together to then represent to the group. And then she was in charge of one of the big canvases the children designed for the play. And I think that it's that, you know, that sometimes you use words, sometimes you use visuals, sometimes you make collections. There's never a one way. It's about choosing the most appropriate. And sometimes the adult can notate for the child with permission. You know, I personally don't agree with writing or drawing on the child's work, but in this case it was presented as a photocopy, which I think is fine, where the adult's writing was saying what the child had said. If you ask permission, of course, that's fine. So I'm not negating that role. And I think it's to hear the child's voice in their drawing, to see their understanding and make that visible. So you can see the learning. I suppose that's what we're all about. being able to see the learning daily. And if a parent here visiting the gallery, I'm sorry it's dark, is then working in their sketchbook alongside the children, that's another role as a role model, if you like. Then you can't see an adult attending to a child's interest in their sketchbook. So this phrase we use quite a lot as adults. I think it comes from Liz actually. So we like quoting, and visual quoting is good as well. But the whole notion that we are companions in children's learning, and so responding directly to children's interests and fascinations and curiosities, so that we know what's real and relevant to them, that they have ownership and control over their learning. And it's creativity with responsibility, and that's that's where we are as a research organisation. There's a curious image here that's possibly too dark. This is one of the sessions, but you can see there's a mixed age group, and the children have an opportunity to work either in their own sketchbook or work with each other in a paired sketchbook or a big book. Sometimes they choose to use different media. We've set up a studio for the children to the children can choose exactly what they want to do, and then we'll support them if they need help. There are no rules, it's more about respecting each other's work, listening to each other, but also anything can be made as art. And children will readily share their sketchbooks and their ideas with each other and support each other's learning. So it's a very kind of collegiate, there's a lot of peer learning going on. It's really nice at the moment because I've got an ex-student who's a year 7, he's now home educated, coming back in for work experience with supporting the younger children in the group. So I think nobody would disagree with this at all, this lovely phrase from Reggio, the child is strong and powerful, created from the moment of birth. But actually, we have to show that we believe that through our daily practice. Our values underpin why we do what we do, and that's why this session's around reflective journals, because we can see in the narrative, in the self-narrative, in the visual narrative, in the text, in the way of collecting ideas together, we can see what learning is going on and how we might support that together. So the commitment to early years practice is very much about, giving children who are, this is my Lily when she was 2, maybe 3, trying to see if there's a date on the sketchbook, but giving them an opportunity at the kitchen table, in the classroom, in the wood, on the bus, wherever you are, to experiment with different media to say what they want to say. So the negotiation around, what are your ideas, how do you want to share them? They're the best questions. The best questions come from children themselves, actually, about their learning. So Leon is quite an interesting child whose both his parents were architects, and it's interesting to see the graphicacy in his drawing. He does lots and lots of drawing at home as well as in school, and he always flips an activity for his own needs. So for instance, sometimes we have what they call up my sleeve, if there are bits of stuff, I might have something up my sleeve as a provocation. So thinking in this case about patterns in nature and what we could see around the school. So he then flipped that idea and took the spirals that he was observing, the shells and the snails and so on, and made a narrative and a story image that developed over 7 pages of his sketchbook. And Kitty, it doesn't matter what we do, she'll always end up drawing dragons and dinosaurs. And so she's got lots of sketchbooks all about dragons and dinosaurs. And
that motivation was from the start.
Absolutely, yes. And it comes through in a lot of the teachers kind of catch me in the corridor and say how some of those, the attention and workshop is coming through in their learning in the classroom.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, please.
How do you then extend it? So each week she draws a dragon or a dinosaur. Do you say anything to develop that, or did you just let her keep going each week?
Usually my role is in dialogue with the children, so supporting their ideas without telling them what to do, so valuing their ideas and seeing what they might do next, and keeping a careful eye on that without interfering. So it's a very delicate balance between offering them freedom but giving them a structure to develop and generate more ideas. I had a child in my class who was 7, Laura, who, this was a long time ago, in the 1980s, and she's just graduated from St Martin's in London, and she invited me to her final show, her final exhibition, and in my class she always drew dragons, and sort of like India in our school is now year 7, but she has got books and books and books of dragons. Laura's final show was large-scale mythological creatures. So that's kind of 10, 15 years, further on in her development. So it's quite interesting. And boys like Finn, we ran a workshop in the woods where the children were offered opportunities to follow their own themes, working with artists in the rock seas. And Finn really didn't want to be photographed, Jack, and would hide behind his drawings, but he really desperately wanted his images to be photographed. So it's interesting, it's what you can tell from a child with them kind of presenting their work to you, and how you can be sensitive, based on your question, to what they then need. So Finn spent the whole day filling a sketchbook, investigating the natural environment, and then presenting ideas in the sketchbook. And a lovely story about Jamie, who's in these photographs was 6. Is he 7 now, Nikki? It's very frustrating that these photographs are dark. If you just see the Edwina's sculptures at the Victoria Art Gallery, Jamie's taking a drawing in his sketchbook and then adapting it to a long drawing that the children are doing together, and then back in the classroom developing his idea. So all my question was, would you like to make your drawing larger? So it's just seeing the opportunity for developing an idea in a different way. And then Jamie wouldn't normally do this, but he was animated so much that he wanted to share his learning to the whole group. So he stood up and spoke to a whole group of 15 children, 4 to 11-year-olds, about his story that I documented. I was, privileged to be alongside him and documenting and then representing it. And you can see the questions above. I just noted as we were working the questions that were coming up from the children about what they were doing. So having that immediate documentation to then respond to. And actually James, with his mother's permission, has now presented a web page on our exhibition site that Julia's designed about Jamie's story. So thinking about today and our kind of reflective process, thinking about the opportunities that we can share our learning and share our children's learning. I think I learned a lot personally from working alongside Anna Ledyard. You may know her. She ran one of our Red Days recently, Days for Reflection, Exchange and Dialogue, and she is immersed constantly working with Anglia University, but also as part of a project called East Feast, which is in, as it says, in the east of the country, Suffolk, Essex area, where gardeners and artists work together to grow food and then share their learning in a feast at the end of the year. And part of the process for the teachers and artists working together in partnership is a commitment that everybody keeps a reflective journal. And we encourage our research group to do the same in order to then have that opportunity for creative reflection, so that that phrase, attending to children's ideas, and that's actually showing the learning journey and showing it back to the children, showing it back to the group of adults. And that's done in different ways, and certainly Catherine Lamont today will take you through various strategies and processes that you can use to explore visual and verbal narrative, written narrative, and how you might document yourselves. And we all have different ways. There isn't one prescription, there isn't one formula. And I think the diversity and the idiosyncratic practice with 5x5, it's Friday, is absolutely key. And so there are different ways of doing things. And so for instance, this is the room that we work in Bath Eastern, where this was an evaluation session with the children. They worked with a weaner over a period of time, and then we set up a large drawing, as well as the sketchbooks, the big books you can see that are out, for the children to reflect on their learning together and to think about what they valued from the process and what they'd learned and what they wanted to do next. So keeping that dialogue going. And then having regular exhibitions of the children's work and keeping them changing. It's quite a task, and it's quite a task to keep it tidy, isn't it, Nikki? Yeah. It is a challenge, but actually, if we're doing it together, then I think people can share out that responsibility. So, I'm going to pause in a minute just to hand over to Nikki and Jane, but I just wanted to summarise that this is an invitation to you today to explore some of the creative processes that keeping a reflective journal allow you to immerse yourselves in, and also to think about what opportunities you're providing to the children that you work with. So the notion of it's not just about art, creativity is a life-wide capacity that we all have. Ken Robinson talks about nurturing this kind of human ecology of creative capacities, and I think it's really important that we are thinking more deeply, especially in the current educational political climate, about our values that underpin why we do what we do daily in order to keep that excellent practice going and not collude with an agenda that is not to do with children's rights and entitlement. So certainly, I had an interview with the Arts Council on the phone the other day, and one of the first phrases was, "It's really good, Penny, because you're positively stroppy about staying to your principles. I think keeping to your principles, not diversifying in terms of meeting government agenda." I personally strongly disagree with SATs. I strongly disagree with kind of league tables and benchmarks, and I think that sometimes there's a fantastic book called Punishment by Reward. We give children lax praise and stickers and points, and it doesn't mean anything. It's about intrinsic value of learning, and that's what we need to think about. So the reflective journal is a vehicle to show that learning. We've invited the government spokespeople down to see some of this excellent practice, so you may get knocks on your doors to show some of these case studies. I know that Twerson will put a hand up straight away. We want to show what's going on, and if we have these beautiful objects and beautiful journals and learning walls and the vital learning that's going on with young children, that's what we need to stand by, I think. So, just to pause and reflect, to give time, so this is what today's about, to give you time to reflect on your role and how you might engage in conversation with your colleagues about how you might attend to your practice and change it slightly, or share your practice with other people and work together. And the idea of, I love this quote about, the idea of a journal being a moment in time, if you like. It's about that kind of reaction to people, situations, experiences. It's a connection to ideas and stories, and it's all about our dreams and imaginings. So this is permission for you to, have a bit of time out, have a time to individuals together. It's always about value added. We always learn from each other more. So I'm going to hand over now to Jane first, and then Nikki. Jane and Nikki have brought together a collection of learning journals from Bath Eastern and from Twerton, and although there will be overlaps, of course, everybody works in slightly different ways, and that difference is just as valuable as the similarities. So I think it would be good to hear two different voices to show you what they do. But just while I swap over, does anybody have any questions? I'll let you read this quote. Does anybody have any questions directly to me? That was a good question, Annie, by the way. I think I have to probably ask Nick and Sarah, but if anybody did want to visit Barby's person, I'm sure that both heads would welcome that if it was organised.
Yeah.
It was booked.
Can I just ask a question about music? Because a lot of children are into music, but I've never found a way of recording them.
Okay, so
take a picture, but that's not the experience really, is it?
So using actual tape recorders and video and so on.
Flip cameras. Flip cameras, have you heard of those? They look like a mobile phone, but they're called Flip. The kids can use them. We invested last year and bought one for each class. And they're very, very simple. They just video record and sound. And the reason they're called, people probably come across them, they're getting quite popular. The reason they're popular is that you press a button on the side and a USB thing flips up, and you just put it in the computer straight away, and there it's downloaded. So you don't need any software because the software's integrated. So the kids quickly learn how to use these. So you could, and in the past when we've done maybe recorded dance and then brought it back for the children to look at their performance and evaluate it and talk about it. The same can be done for music or drama. And since having them, we found the teachers love them and the kids are very able to use them. It's just a red button at the back that you press and to stop it and to start it.
There's some nice
they're
work
great.
from thanks. There's some nice work from Colin Bowden. He's made case studies of musicality. Do you want to say anything about that, Mary?
Well,
let me introduce, Mary Fawcett, who Mary and I co-authored our book, Research into Research in the World. Mary's been involved in Colin Bowden since its birth.
this is an area where I'm just becoming passionate, and I'm afraid I could talk for several hours. But the hub of it is that music is part of communication. In fact, in terms of looking right back into the ancient past, it may be that music began even before speech. So it's deeply embedded in us. And Colin Trevarthen's work is always worth a look because he's very interested in the fine detail between in the communication between children and their carers and their parents. But I do feel we sadly undervalue and underuse music in our early years settings. And if any of you are doing interesting things in this, perhaps you could have a quick word with me because I'm interested to discover what's happening around. And this is not about producing the next elite professionals, the next lot of Mozart. It's about music as expression that anybody and everybody can use.
Absolutely. And it is, Mary's just written a paper on brain development that is available through our website. And actually the area of music and musicality and musical development is one of our next focus areas for 5X5. So, please do come and talk to us.
I may possibly have a connection here because I went to an excellent children in Scotland and Colin Trevarthen was talking and he was linking in the Portuguese ones. And I think I might be able to withdraw from my journal the notes because
that's well said, by the way, withdraw from your journal, right?
I got her link, but also all the best with your coalition visit.
Yes.
Coalition visit.
We are.
I hope there is.
Well, yes, let's hope. So I'm going to just hand over, just last thought. Some of you know that we have 4 patrons. Amazing, actually. We have 4 patrons and fantastic trustees. Jack Whitehead is one of our trustees who's videoing this session. It's like through me. But we have Anna Craft, as you know, Professor of Education at Exeter and Open University, who's leading this coalition lobby, which is really good. And we have Sir Christopher Frayling, who lives in Bath and used to be the head of the Arts Council and the Royal College of Art. We have Iran Suraj Blatchford, who's the professor in early years education at the Institute of Education. And of course we have the lovely Richard Wentworth, who not only was he the professor of drawing at Oxford Ruskin College, but he's now head of sculpture at the Royal College of Art. But as soon as I met Richard, which was when I was doing some work at St Modern, he got 5x5, and when I realised his understanding was so clear, I asked him to be a patron. He sent me a text from China, that's his style, and he said, you know, one of the things, Penny, is that I don't have a medium. My medium is thoughtfulness, and that's why I really like your work. So it's our work, it's the whole idea that, you know, together we are thoughtful alongside children, and then we can think more deeply about creativity. And reflective journals are a way of kind of showing that. So in terms of our learning journals that we're sharing with children daily, I'm going to invite Jane Rushford-Smith to come up now and share her work. And I hope the colours work for you. It must be something, George, it's not your fault, it must be something that the math doesn't like in terms of, we always have problems with maths in the egg, don't we? So we need to think about. So Jane is a lovely friend and colleague, worked with for many years at Twerson Infant School. Jane was trained at Barstow University and immediately, having had previous life in retail, I did retail manager, very brave. And so ever since I've worked with Jane, I've had huge respect for the process she uses. And it was a privilege, and was it only last week before that the whole school were involved in 5x5 Explore Day, where we were supporting every child following their own interests, following their fascinations, which was fantastic. So over to you, Jane. Too bad actually, the photos showing.
Yours are coming out better than mine.